All right, my name is Tanner Ross Gregory. I am Jesus Christ. Today I'm going to attempt to prove to you that I'm Jesus Christ, as well as each of these key points listed above. All right, so the commands of Moses for people to stone each other to death for various acts such as prostitution or homosexuality, that was a bargain with our primitive urges of violence that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. All right. Jesus Christ's crucifixion was a means by which we were subdued in our willingness to continue proceeding with those violent commands. All right. So we had evolved past the point of those commands' usefulness. I see what Jesus Christ went through. I cannot bring myself to do that any longer. All right. Jesus Christ put forward some commands on marriage. Those were a bargain with our primitive urges of sexual dominion that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. All right. So I could say this woman is my, sexual property, or this man's my sexual property, or whatever. I will more readily go along with what you have to say about the government. All right. So what they did to me as Jesus Christ in order to subdue you in your willingness to continue proceeding with those commands is that they programmed me to become obsessed with this woman, made me see her having sex with all these people for days on end, made me see her getting raped, and then had me running around yelling at people for what they made me see them do. All right. So on December the 4th and December the 15th of 2020, they made me see two separate women pregnant with my son from having had sex with different men. All right. So the date falling directly in between these dates is December the 10th of 2020. However, because the women were already pregnant when they revealed themselves to me, and because a woman has her period once a month, and if she misses her period, then she's pregnant, the date that we're concerned with is November the 10th of 2020. All right. So in the book of Revelations, it says that the dragon was waiting to consume the child the moment that he was born, but that the archangel Michael took the woman and the baby into the wilderness to be kept safe for 1,260 days. All right. So 9 months from November the 10th of 2020 is August the 10th of 2021, and 1,260 days from August the 10th of 2021 is inauguration day of 2024. Wow, how could I have even made that up? That's part of what convinces you that I'm Jesus Christ, okay? It's just the fact that I can tell you this story, okay? All right, so the dragon represents necessary evil. And the reason that the dragon represents necessary evil is because they're saying it would be a form of necessary evil for my son to be killed before he inherit all the power that I will receive to rule over this world as king. Okay, they actually did have me anoint my head with oil during the crucifixion stage, which means at some point I'm going to be king. Okay, but I'm not just going to be king. Okay, so I'm a political, savant, you could say. And so myself and alien intelligence and artificial intelligence developed a new several hundred-page libertarian constitution. And so effectively what I'm going to be doing is just putting that in place as the authority over the government and then just being done. Okay. All right. But the 1,260 days sounds like a countdown. And so you might be asking yourself, what is this a countdown to? All right. And so in the book of Revelation, it says that the Gentiles were allowed to march on the holy city for 42 months, but they have been assigned to the outer court. Okay. The first beast rules for 42 months. Okay. And then the second beast, the false prophet, makes miracles of fire come out of the sky in full view of all the people. All right, so what does that mean? It means there's a group of people that are allowed to be here for 42 months. After that, if they don't leave, they're going to be killed with airstrikes. Okay, so we're in that 42-month waiting period right now. And what they're saying is that if they are not Caucasian, they have to leave. Okay, and they're going to rig up a new system of government. We've already got a new blueprint for all of that for the minorities in their countries, where our judicial system will appoint their Supreme Court justices, and they can only vote for white people and stuff like that. But, they'll end up with the same constitution. They'll end up with a lot of prosperity and freedom, more than what we have right here in the United States right now. But first and foremost, they've got to get them the hell out. All right, so the 5 months that Noah spent in his ark correlates with the 5 months of scorpion stings in the book of Revelation to indicate that we're going to use nuclear weapons on California. And the way that that works is because the 5 months of scorpion sting is actually symbolic of the 5 months that I spent in Wise County Jail right after my crucifixion. And so when it talks about their breastplates of iron, their stinger at their hip, it's a golden tassel, they call it a golden crown, it's police officers, okay? And so what the government had already figured out was that all of that indicates is that if they can get me arrested in California while staging sex trafficking situations and all of this, that they will then have biblical permission to use nuclear weapons on California. And the reason why is, on its face, obviously, it's 80% Hispanic in California. So if you tried to, get all the Hispanic people out with airstrikes, you would spend so much money, it would be so ridiculous. So they're just talking about just using actual nuclear weapons and just nuke the whole fucking state. Which the state is a total fucking cesspit, but that's destroying a lot of valuable infrastructure. So I don't know how I feel about that, but this is what they want. And part of what they're saying is that one of the biggest things that they did while I was out there, where they were staging the sex trafficking situation with the government actually being involved. This is so crazy. Well, they were talking about, I want you to burn this place to the ground. I want you to burn this place to the ground. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is crazy. Then they had me driving around talking about cut pizza, the molestation of children. They even at one point said, well, they have to molest the kids so that they can have kids, like just trying to get us mad. You know what I mean? And part of what they're trying to do is to say, well, it's like Egypt. You know what I mean? Like in the story of Egypt. So they came in, they said, well, these are the slaves. You got to release the slaves or we're going to do these 7 plagues and kill all these people with locusts and kill the children and kill all these people. The reason that they do that is because they had thousands of new laws that they were trying to introduce to these people, all through Leviticus, the book of Exodus as well, and essentially just saying, galvanizing the population around these new laws. So essentially they're just basically doing, oh, well, see, we're mad about your problems and we did all these things. And then people will go, oh my, it's so endearing to them that they will go along with the new document. Okay, so that's the whole point of that. And I can go on for a long period of time about that, but I'm not going to keep going on about that. All right, so the suicide boys are the 2 olive trees from the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, it says the 2 olive trees will prophesy for 1,260 days. So they released an album called The Long-Term Effects of Suffering on August the 13th of 2021. 1,260 days from August the 13th of 2021 is 3 days after Inauguration Day. On the album cover, it shows someone behind bars. Somebody else is throwing up blood into a metal toilet, somebody in a jumpsuit. So obviously I concluded, oh, well, these are police officers. The inmates found out it was police officers. They poisoned his food. So for about a month prior to Inauguration Day, I worked on the book pretty much for a month straight. I only slept every other night. And then so once Inauguration Day came around, I started sending out the book to, thousands of people in churches and all this thing. And so 3 days after Inauguration Day came and went, I didn't know what was going on. I later read the Old Testament where the 2 olive trees were first mentioned, and it talks about the final capstone is in the hand of Zerubbabel, and it talks about this flying scroll. So what it means is that the book will be finalized and sent, out to an adequate number of people by 3 days after Inauguration Day to set a series of events in motion that will result in the police going to jail. Primarily, obviously, the reason why is having something to do with the war on drugs, okay? We have more people locked up in this country than any country in the world, even China, with them having so many more people than us. And it's just kidnapping, and it creates black markets. And, right out of those black markets, people are being killed over squabbles of territorial disputes, property disputes where they can't call the police, And in the case with the criminalization of prostitution, these women are getting sucked into sex trafficking. When they need to make some money, they sell some, sell some booty or whatever, and they shouldn't be doing that. But the point of the story is that when you criminalize something like that, then you create a violent black market, and these women are just sex slaves. They're getting sucked. They got a pimp. They got a pimp that bosses them around, makes them do things. They can't get out of it. You know what I mean? And the police are essentially responsible for this. Now, it's a lot more complicated than just saying the police are responsible. It's a lot more complicated than really even saying anybody's responsible, because the whole system is collapsing and has been collapsing for such a long period of time. A lot of it stems from the 17th Amendment. Just really everything that goes wrong in this country somehow stems from the 17th Amendment. I believe it. But either way, what they're doing is essentially, like I said, what I was trying to explain to you before. You know, these are the bad people. You know what I mean? Now watch me do this stuff to them, and the end result is people will say, "Oh, I like this new Constitution that you came up with." You know, it's hundreds of pages long, but you know, subconsciously it programs people into going along with it. So.